Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I am the Triple TC, that's the time traveling toy collector, and today in this video we are looking at Transformers Studio Series 86 38, I think. Obviously they're no longer numbered in universe for the Studio Series collection, but for my Studio Series playlist I am trying to keep them numbered as they are released. So, because I like a numbered list, and it started with a numbered list, so here I am numbering them. Yes, I know, I'm psychotic. What can I tell you? Anyway, welcome to my channel, the home of psychosis. Talking of psychosis, here we have Scavenger, one of the Constructicons who ultimately will combine and form Devastator, as Devastator appeared in the Transformers the movie back in 1986. We are hurtling towards the end of this collection in terms of the Constructicons. And I'm very excited because I do already have Mixmaster. He's arrived as well, so I'll get to him very soon, and then we can do the full Devastator combination, which I'm very much looking forward to, because I think, although I kind of like the individual figures, and I know that's it's almost unpopular to say that, because I know they've had quite a bit of a beating, and I'll probably pick up a bit more on this when I do the actual Devastator video. I imagine, other than sort of throwaway comments that I might make during the individual bots. But yeah, I think it's a shame, because it's almost, I'm looking at these as a bit of a hybrid between the G1 figures, which are sort of this big, let's be honest, about that big, with little to no articulation at all, and then possibly the Unite Warriors, because I've only got the Unite Warriors version. I don't have the Combiner Wars version. I have the Unite Warriors, which does have slightly better articulation and paint apps, etc., in the majority of cases. And I think that was very much of its time, as the G1s are. And I think Studio Series 86 is striving to do what Studio Series 86 has always done, which is give us that interesting middle ground between animation accuracy, which I know is what they're striving for across Studio Series. It's the big screen or small screen accuracy, but also that accuracy overlaid on the G1 stylings, because obviously if you're appearing in the G1 movie, you've got the G1 aesthetic and the G1 styling. So Hasbro, Takara Tomy, you've got this really difficult challenge, whether we like it or not. They've got a difficult challenge to produce as close to G1 accurate animation figures that also are as close to G1 accurate toy figures, which were bricks, let's be honest, and have something in the middle that also is a step up in terms of engineering, in terms of overall quality, and of course in terms of that combiner element. So let's be fair to them. That's a difficult call, and I know that it's their job, I get that, but it was their job back in the day, in the 80s and in the 90s and the noughties. And so there's always been some inconsistency. But I think overall, if we take it in context, I think a lot of what they're doing works. Are there some evident elements that we're a bit disappointed about? Probably. But then it's also a bit the sort of collector condition, isn't it? There's always going to be something that makes us a bit disappointed about it. And we can either focus and fixate on that and then bring ourselves down, or we can go, that's a shame. Maybe there's reasons behind it we can try and understand, and, you know, compartmentalize that disappointment with the fact that, but this is what we've got, and it's better than not having anything, in my opinion. Other opinions are, of course, equally valid, and obviously welcome to hear them in the comments. This is the box art for Scavenger. It's very, very nice. I do love the, I mean, I'm always saying it, but I do love the aesthetic for all of the G1 Studio Series approaches. There's the product shots on the back, so there's no big massive spoiler about what we're going to get at the end of this video. And he combines, of course, to form Devastator, Autobot logo, because why would you have an Autobot logo? And there he is, all Scavengery. That's what we get with the box. This is what we get with the figure. So to save time, I've already taken him out. There's some minor assembly required. We have to attach his bucket to his back. That comes separately, and he comes with his little blaster here. Very nice it is too. Elephants in the room. We have some big gaps here in his forearms. Everything else is sort of ball jointy to allow for ease of movement and to make sure we've got articulation. We also, of course, have no waist articulation, which I know for some people is really, really disappointing. It disappoints me to an extent, but I do think we do have a lot of articulation elsewhere. Now, that isn't going to make up for the lack of waist articulation. But if you want the waist articulation because you want to do some dynamic, what's happened here? You want to do some dynamic posing, you do get some nice leg articulation. You've got swivel all over the place. You've got an additional, you've got the knee joint there, which does have, you know, some filler. You've got ankle tiltage there. So technically speaking, you do have the potential to have quite a bit of sort of posability, dynamic posability. And you could, if you do it right, you could almost sort of lose the fact that there's no waist articulation in your photographs through how you might, let's move this out of the way, through how you may choose to pose the figure. So I think if I'm being brutally fair to Hasbro and to Karatomi, I think they've given us what they could give us, and I think that is a saving grace for these figures. I totally understand why some people think, yes, but there's very lacking. Are they very lacking, or are they just disappointingly limited in the waist articulation? And then when we look at why, we know that Evan and other designers within Transformers and within Hasbro's Transformers team rather have pointed out it's to facilitate a robust transformation into Devastator to minimize a lot of other aspects. Gosh, I do panic about trying to move things that have got very, very tight joints. But I just think we can be clever with how we position some of these figures, just to get that hint that it's not completely fixed in the waist. But maybe that's me. Again, I am trying to look for the most positive outcome when looking at these figures, because they're not cheap figures and they're going to continue to be not cheap figures moving forwards. And so Hasbro have to make the best use of their tooling. They have to make the best use of their engineering skills, because they're a business. They've got to make a profit. And if they don't, we end up not getting these in the future. And I know some people will say, well, I'd rather not have them than have something that's not 100%. Well, I'd rather have something that's 95% and have it than wait for something that's 100% and it never turn up. Because luckily, I still remember how to deploy my imagination from when I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s. It came in very handy then, and it can still come in quite handy now. So I think, all in all, I'm not delighted that we don't have waist articulation and certain other elements of articulation, but by the same token, I'm hoping that the final combination into Devastator will give us a G1 accurate Devastator that we can all be happy with, or as close to happy as some will ever get. So here we have Scavenger, and again, lovely head sculpt, nice deep set, deep red eyes there. There's some lovely mechanical detailing across his chest here, this nice chrome silver section here with the Autobot, the Decepticon insignia slap bang in the middle. There is a slight paint difference in the hands to the rest of the arms. I think that's because they're molded in that plastic and they're painted. It's minimal, you hardly notice it, but I'm noticing it, so I'm saying it. Again, as I've already mentioned, there's no articulation in the hand itself, there's a lot of gapping in the arm, but all of that essential for the articulation for the transformation mode. So again, already with the articulation that we've got here, the detailing and the scale, it's better than we had for G1, whilst retaining a lot of the G1 vibe. His little black pistol, I think it works really nicely. It's a nice design, fits neatly into his hand. It can also be stored in any of the ports of which he has many. Not so many on this side, actually, but they're mostly over here. Bosh, bosh. There's some places you could store it there. The legs are mostly the tracks, but we do have the open feet. There's some silver detailing on the outside that kind of matches the pins on the inside, so it's almost like a bit of symmetry there, which helps you lose the pins a little. As I've mentioned, we do have the articulation in the waist in terms of the hips. Again, it's predominantly ball joints. Got some mushroom pegs there in the thighs. We've got a snap joint for the knee. We have some nice detailing in the legs. Sort of looks a bit like he's got a tattoo of Astro Train on his leg, which is curious. But maybe they're buddies. So I like it. I like the figure. It stands nicely. It holds nicely. There's a slight tendency for the ball joint in this arm to go a bit loose, but overall it doesn't. And pleasingly, it's not going too loose now. So that'll teach me a lesson. But it does happen occasionally. I didn't want to sort of gloss over that. But robot mode, I like it. I think it works. I think he's a great addition to the Constructicon team. Let's check out his alternative mode, and just as I'm going to do that off camera, just in case I have any hiccups and I have to swear or keep trying or redo it or watch somebody else do it to try and get it right, I will feed back on my experience and any pinch points or any particularly intriguing engineering, etc. Whilst I'm doing that, great opportunity for you to quickly like the video, which means the absolute world to me. It genuinely does. As does if you're someone who's watching this but don't currently subscribe to the channel. It's a perfect opportunity for you to do that. Doesn't bring me anything other than pleasure, to be perfectly honest. It's non-committal on your part. You don't have to watch all the output. You can just still choose to select what you watch, but at least you'll know when new stuff crops up. But also it helps me reach my personal milestones. As many of you may be aware, I've set them for myself as part of my own journey, both in terms of doing this, but keeping me motivated to keep doing this, because sometimes it can feel a bit thankless. Not that you're doing it for thanks, but when you're alone into the dark wee hours of the night, working with bits of plastic and talking into the darkness, there is a rewarding element that is very uplifting, and any of you who are creators yourselves will understand this, I think. When you do find out that there are people out there who are actually following what you do and are enjoying it, you know, or maybe are enjoying engaging with it because they disagree with things that you've said, or they have a different point of view, all of which is absolutely welcomed as long as it's polite and respectful. So by all means, please help me get to my next subscriber milestone, and if you let me know in the comments that you've done that, I will come back to you personally and thank you for doing so. In the meantime, if you're just here for the video and not looking to subscribe and all of that jazz, that's absolutely fine. I'm just glad that you're here, enjoying hopefully the video. I'm going to shut up waffling like a tedious old YouTuber and get on with the transformation. I'll be right back. And here we have Scavenger all transformed into his alt mode, and very alt modey he looks too. I actually really like this. The transformation was really straightforward, really easy. He compacts really nicely. Now again, some of it's quite blatant, quite obvious. He does have a Decepticon logo, which is extra points as far as I'm concerned. There's lots of good articulation in his bucket thing here. Really effective, really good, really useful. And also has some rotation here, so he can sort of lift stuff up and then dump it, presumably into long haul, if long haul had capacity for that sort of kind of thing. So yeah, really good. There's no actual wheels on the treads, which I don't really understand why they couldn't have put that in. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it does seem increasingly like the Constructicons have been given a bit of a raw deal in terms of their manufacturing, because I don't think having any sort of mobility in the treads, I don't mean them actually making them into treads, but actually having just some wheels, would have compromised the integrity of Devastator. Obviously I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought so. Everything tabs together really nicely, really easily. The only thing I would just point out is, let's get this out of the way, there's a hinge here for the sort of cockpit area here for the driver's cabin. And it's a hinge that is used to deploy this a couple of times. Now there is an area here that's designated for that hinge to sit in. On my copy, even though all the tabs were lined up, it was at an angle. It's still not perfect now, but it was at an angle and it was making other things jut out, and it just looked odd. So I got my tweezers and just using a single part of them, gently introduced them there until it lined up, and I was able to just sort of gently press it across and slip into that. And it made a world of difference. So watch out for that, because we're talking millimeters here, but the millimeters make all the difference, because that could really easily throw off the whole alignment, and also probably over time cause a stress point. So I was as gentle as I could be with the tweezers just to get that to line up, and now it lines up significantly better than it did before. It may have been unique to mine. Other copies may naturally line up really easily, and I hope that they do, but if not, that something like a pair of tweezers, very, very useful and effective to get that to be where it needed to be, so that it all did line up perfectly well. Again, love the detailing around the edges of this. It lines up nicely. You can see that it looks like there's a nice door access there to the cabin. There's grills on the back. Obviously some of the joints are visible, but this is a deluxe class. There's limits to what they could have done. The treads look really nice. The nice silver detailing there. There's some lovely detailing on the bucket arm as well. It does feel like it's a pneumatic element, and it's nicely articulated. As I say, you've got lots of extension there. You've got the rotation there. It's done really well for my money. You can insert the gun there. You can choose to have it there or not. Realistically, I think that is the only place you can have it, if you wish to have it on board, if you want on-board storage. But again, a nice representation of exactly what it needs to be and what it's supposed to be. So no arguments from me here. So what do you think? Are you excited for the culmination of the Studio Series 86 Constructicons? I've got to be honest, I am. And it feels like we're racing through this phase of Transformers. I mean, I know we're in the age of the primes in terms of the main line, but already we've only got a few primes left. They're nearly all been released, and I think it's only been just coming up to 2 years worth of, if that, 2 years worth of this range, and we've nearly got all the primes, which I find, I don't know, surprising. I thought, given there's 13, they might stretch it out a bit. They might sort of only give us 2 or 3 a year, whereas it feels like we've got tons of them, and there's not that many left to see. I mean, to be fair, there's a few that aren't yet released, so we've seen them, but they're not yet released, and there's still a few that we haven't seen yet, but not many. It does feel like we've surprisingly bashed through it, much like we've surprisingly got through all of the Constructicons and very nearly all of the aerial bots as well, which is great, because we've also overlapped with the start of Bruticus. I never had Bruticus as a special team back in the day in the 80s, nor subsequently. So I am excited to see the application of the modern aesthetics to Bruticus design, and hopefully we'll also see Defensor at some point down the road. I think there's been some hints that he's definitely coming. Am I interested in things like Computron? Piranha. To be honest, for me, growing up, brutally honest, it was never had the Constructicons as a child. Always wanted it for Devastator. To be fair, Superion I had, G1 Superion I had, G1 Menasor I had, G1 Defensor I had, so I had the Protectobots. That was it. I didn't have the others. Didn't have Bruticus. The Computron wasn't really into that. Abominus. No, I didn't really. I think that was as I was moving out of my love affair with Transformers back in the day. They were sort of coming in. So I'm not anti. I don't have any issues with them, and I'm sure they'll be fantastic figures. And once I see them, I might decide to go for them. Again, I've gone for Lyo Kaiser as HasLab, and that's a combiner that I didn't really know until I got into Victory. So So it's not impossible that I wouldn't pick them up as a customer, but then they're not on my to-do list, as it were. It'll be a bonus purchase for me if I do them, but definitely Defensor I would get. Obviously, I've already signed up for the Bruticus joyride that we've got ahead of us. But what other combiners are you looking forward to, if any? Or do you think it's time? I'm going to be very careful how I say this. Do you think it's time for Hasbro to start creating new Transformer characters? Because we're seeing an awful lot of G1 being reworked with modern engineering, which of course I am here for. So please don't think I'm going, oh, G1 this, G1 that. I'm here for that, 100%. But is it time that Hasbro moderated its use of the past and started looking to the future with some new figures and some new continuity and some new storylines that takes the figures moving forwards instead of just being reliant on the figures of the past? And I don't know my answer to that. If you were asking me that, I don't know my answer to that. I would always want to see good quality interpretations of the figures I grew up with. That's why I got sucked back into collecting Transformers, for that very reason. It was through that portal, through having suddenly access to higher quality versions of figures that I only ever dreamt of getting as a child anyway, because they weren't available here, etc, etc, etc. So that's what hooked me in. I don't know about yourselves. So I'm that's got me already. But would I like to see new characters, new storylines being utilizing these new characters? Yes, some crossover to introduce them, because you need that connective tissue with new characters. But yeah, I think maybe I'd like to see a bit of that. I think both in moderation creates that sort of happy medium element. So we do get a healthy dose of the reworked, reimagined, re-engineered original stuff, but also blended in with some new stuff, some new figures, some new characters. Because really, and I don't know the answer to this either, because I'm just trying to think, when was the last time we had new characters that weren't revisitations of characters that appeared in G1, G2, and then the various animated series that came after that? Have we got any characters that are brand new, that may have been introduced into the War of Cybertron trilogy, that were new characters, not revisitations of old characters? I don't know the answer. I'll leave you to, you'll know the answer. There'll be people out there who are far better versed in Transformers lore than I. So yeah, let me know if we've had any new characters. And on the back of that, do we need more? Do we need just to start down that road? Are you sick to death of reworked versions of the past? Or are you quite happy with reworked versions of the past? As I say, I sort of, without wanting to sit on the fence, I do kind of sit in the middle. I see it as a bit of a Venn diagram, and there's me in that intersecting section. I do love the old stuff, but I'd love to see new stuff. I'd love to get... I always remember what it was like when there was new characters announced back in the 80s. New characters announced, new teams coming in, blah, blah, blah. Very exciting. Now the excitement is, oh, and now they're revisiting the jump starters. Now they're revisiting the battle chargers. Now they're revisiting the Insecticon. So it's like, well, yeah, okay, what's new? What are we getting? What's new though? What's new? But is it a tribute to what's gone before, that actually, well, they've done pretty much everything? What is new? What could they do that's new? Is the market rooted in their past? You tell me your thoughts down below. Anyway, this has turned into something that it wasn't supposed to be. This isn't a discussion video on the future of Transformers. This is a look at the Studio Series 8638 Constructicon Scavenger, as he appeared in the 86 movie and a bit the various TV seasons that went alongside either side of that. thank you for being my companion as I've had a look at him. You've been fantastic. Again, it would be great if you could like the video, and even greater still if you could drop a subscription to the channel. It really would mean the world, and you would help me push ever closer to my next subscriber milestone. I've been the Triple TC, that's the Time Travelling Toy Collector. I very much look forward to seeing you in a future, or of course in a past video. And this has been the absolutely marvellous Constructicon, mostly with a few obvious flaws, but being positive, this has been the generally marvellous Constructicon Scrapper, not Scrapper at all, Constructicon Scavenger, and I look forward to seeing you soon. It just remains for me to say that a thing of beauty with a wonderful bucket really is a toy forever. Take care. Bye-bye for now.